How many? How many? How many? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, what did I get up to?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of How Many? The podcast, the only podcast on the internet that counts.
You know what it was? He was about to say Set Lusting Brews.
No.
Apes and Crusaders.
By the way, want to know, I gave a shout out. I just was a guest on Your Podcast or Mine, where they have different hosts of podcasts go and talk about their podcast, and I said, and I also do How Many, which is a podcast that maybe 4 people listen to, but it is an excuse for me to get together with my friends once a month and just talk about things we want to talk about, and it's always a lot of fun.
Did you get them to subscribe to our Apple iPod
Are we at the
podcast feed?
Yeah, we might be. Yeah, we'll have to look. So I am Jesse Jackson. We are fully staffed plus one.
Yes.
We are like Pete Best with us.
Yes, we have brought in a special
A ringer.
subject matter expert.
Yes.
Steve Best is a good reference.
He's a ringer.
Yeah. So let's go around the table. We have
Scott. Bob.
Junior.
and
Gary.
Making his second visit to the How Many podcast team. Unfortunately, his first recording session is not scheduled to be released until 2024, when that editing job will be done, when him and Don graced us with their presence.
We're on the morphine drip release schedule.
Yes.
Just one little bit at a time.
So we've got several topics to cover, but the first one we have to talk about is your Dallas Cowboys. As we're recording this, it is November 14th. We're right after a loss.
Yes, we are week 10 currently. We've already gotten past our bye week. So when we originally did our Cowboys podcast discussion, it was at the beginning of the season. We were giving our predictions, and then we had a little mini recording session where Gary and Kevin Donnan graced us with their presence and told us what they thought about the Cowboy season.
Before we wrap up this bonus extra-length episode, do we want to get Cowboy picks from our 2 Cowboy expert
For the
fans?
upcoming
Season?
For the season.
For the season.
I mean, we're one game in. I'm not going to say that they already have the insight from one
I
game.
mean, like you guys know that I felt this way before that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's not a surprise if I say
Right,
12
right,
or
right.
something like that.
Yeah, how far do you think they'll go?
I mean, just assuming health,
Yeah.
there's not a single team in the league that scares me.
We picked, like I said, I'm going all in. I always kind of go NFC Championship game. This year, I said Super Bowl.
Yeah,
But not win Super Bowl. Just
Yeah, I
get
said
there.
I'm not predicting that.
I mean, I look at just even basing it off the first game, but I have such a deep hatred for Scott Linehan.
Yeah.
And the fact that, I got an idea. We'll go 3 tight ends. We'll put Noah Brown out there on the edge, and we'll pound the football right into the middle. But we want to make sure the defense knows what we're doing. And that didn't work. So now we're going to go empty backfield because I still want to make sure that they know we're not throwing the ball. I don't want to no subterfuge here. And so we're just going to do that. And shockingly, when we run up against good teams, it doesn't work.
You know,
but it worked against bad teams. Well, Kellen's not that guy.
So I was not a fan of promoting him, Kellen Moore. I just he's too young. Can't we just get somebody?
Proven?
Yeah, decent. But
The results.
Chris and I were sitting there going, "Where did this come from?" Where almost every play he was doing
Boise,
the opposite.
though,
No.
think about that.
Yeah.
He played at Boise.
That
was
be
a bananas offense, man.
That had to be the first game in at least 10 years that Chris didn't yell trash at the TV once during the game.
He kept. We both were just staring like, this is
guarantee
awesome.
you,
It's the
I'll
first
guarantee you when Heath
Heath,
walked down the
on
side
those
and he
Saquon.
broke that 59-yard
He
run,
probably did
he
say
yelled
trash.
I yelled trash.
It's the first game in years that I haven't looked at it and gone, okay, I know what they're going to do here. I know what they're going to do here. Okay, now they're going to pass. Okay. I mean,
Good point.
Unpredictable.
It
First
was
time in a long
unpredictable.
time.
Creative.
You know, it wasn't run, pass, run.
Yeah.
It wasn't
They passed
the same
more than
thing
they ran.
over and over.
And they ran way more play action than
Yeah.
they did before.
But
Yeah,
what
I
they
really
did,
like
that.
what they did was they lined up in a formation that would allow them to do either.
Right.
And then they looked at the defense and said, "What are you doing? Because I'm just going to do the other." It's
And I do like, and I know it's just one game, but I like the idea of I don't care who catches the ball.
Right.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
They
just-
did spread
and
the
it
ball
doesn't
around
and it doesn't bother
beautifully.
Cooper.
Yeah,
Or
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
bother
Yeah,
Gallup.
they had a fullback running deep on a wheel
Yeah.
route.
Yeah.
And if he didn't get tripped, that was, I mean,
Yeah.
I assume the guy catches the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't.
The big
because he's a
assumption.
fullback. Okay, it would have been a big assumption in years past, but
You wouldn't have seen
I
that.
believe these guys. I believe these guys know what they're doing now. I mean, between Will McClay putting an unbelievable amount of talent at their disposal, and Kellen Moore running 5 shifts and then snapping the ball with 14 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the most talent they've had on both sides of the ball, the most complete offense and defensive unit they've had since the Super Bowl era. They have not had
I'll even
a
tell.
team.
I'll go a little further than that. I'll say since '93,
Ooh.
because the
So this is
'95 team.
I was
The
going to
95
say.
team was a lot less.
The '95 team had already been hit by free agency and been hit
Yeah.
by age.
Yeah.
That was a good football team, and they were still better than everybody else. But that was not the '92 or '93.
But like all the
The
Romo
92
teams
or
had bad
93 teams would have
defense.
destroyed that team in '95.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Kevin, I didn't get.
Okay,
the
so
answer.
I was going to say my oldest son's name is Emmett. I got a Cowboys man cave 6 hours from here. So I drink the Kool-Aid. I'm going to say 11-5 division title. They'll get a bye. I say NFC Championship game. I want to believe, but I'm still
Sure.
You've been burned before.
I've been burned before,
We have
and
been
I've even said it on. I've said it in one of the rooms. I said as long as this team has Jeff Heath at safety, they're gonna struggle.
you guys are laughing because you think I'm going to defend Heath. Now, number one, I'll say he's not. He's better than most people think.
Yeah.
But
I struggle.
having said that, Donovan Wilson was back at practice this week.
I think he's going
And
to be.
he's taking
he's going
his
to start.
job.
I
Yeah,
would
he's going to
love.
start.
I would
He's a
love.
better version of Heath.
I would love Heath being the third safety.
And that's
Sure.
exactly what
Yes.
he'll be by the bye week.
And he is a badass special teams guy.
See, I see him
Badass.
as he could morph himself into a Bill Bates kind of guy. So I'll say 11-5 and all of that. But I think there will be two. I think Philly comes out of the East as well as the wild card.
So Junior, you've been kind of quiet. Scott's talked about how much he enjoyed it. Bob has. What were your feelings after the game?
I was happy, but I took it with a grain of salt.
They are they're
They were playing probably the worst team in the division, probably a top 5 worst team in the conference.
Yeah.
Right? But
That's
everybody
fair.
agree with that?
That's
Yes.
fair.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think.
But
we'll-
they did exactly to him what you should do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you have
They
to-
beat their ass.
Yes,
It's a
I was
global team and
happy.
you gotta
I was
take care of
happy with
business.
what I saw. I'm just
The only thing that
hesitant.
concerned me was the yards that they gave up, but that
Yes.
was really on 2 drives.
Yeah,
they had
and-
2 90-yard drives. That's 180
And
out of
the
40
last
seconds.
drive, I don't hold against them. That was garbage time.
Sure.
But I am hesitant to say that they will do better than what I had originally predicted, which I actually predicted them to get to the NFC Championship game
Yeah.
this year.
We all did.
I was showing shocking optimism, which I normally never do.
Yeah.
I think this is a very talented team, and I liked what I saw, but again, they were playing the
So
Giants.
I would love to see them do well. I'd love to see more get a lot of acclaim. I'd love to see, and I know not all of us are fans of Garrett, but I think it'd be nice if they could do this to show he is a good, I don't know if necessarily coach, but a good caretaker to the team.
I've been one of those guys that you can get me to talk about either side of Garrett.
Yeah.
Like, if you just asked me what I think about him, I would say that I think they could upgrade that position.
Right.
But for assuming, let's just call Sunday game day. I know there are games on Thursdays.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
game tonight and Mondays and everything else.
Yeah.
But we'll just call Sunday game day. Monday through Saturday, I like everything he does.
Yeah.
I like that he's even keel. I like that we've all seen the videos and things like that are not him on the sideline or him, in a press conference. He's a fiery guy.
Yeah.
He will yell at people and cuss and
Yeah.
and do all of those things. He's not afraid to be that guy.
Yeah.
The things that I like about him, they didn't start investing in the offensive line until he started having a voice
Right.
personnel. They didn't start investing in the defensive lines and all this. And so the philosophy, everybody says, well, you can't win like the 90s anymore. Well, they kind of are. I mean, they're not going to run it 60% of the time, but the old Cowboys, Jimmy even used to talk about it, they threw to set up the run.
Yeah.
And I think that this team can do that same kind of stuff. I like all those things. But there are times on game day that he does things that drive me
I think that's
crazy.
a fair.
He still struggles with clock management.
Yes.
Clock
Still-
management,
Challenges
Challenges
too.
stuff drives me bananas.
Yeah.
Who the heck is giving him
there were
information?
times when I can remember when Jimmy was coaching, and I hate to be that guy that harks back to nostalgia and everything else, but it's what I have in my head is learning how this is how I think it should be done. When I would see good plays and guys come off the field, and Jimmy, he might give him a little clap or pat him on the butt or whatever. I'm not talking about after a touchdown, but just regular plays or whatever. Jimmy was a guy a lot like Parcells that when things were good, he would ride you.
Yeah.
And when things were
That's right.
bad, he would
Yeah.
lift you up.
Yeah.
And Garrett is a lift you up 24/7 guy. And
Yeah.
sometimes somebody does something and they come off the field, and I want him to grab their face mask and tell them, I swear to you, if you jump off sides one more time, I'm sending you to
Instead,
the.
it's
I'm
just
sending you out.
clap, clap,
And
clap,
he
clap.
smiles. Claps,
Clapping
smiles.
the two greatest psychologists, or three really, were Lombardi, Parcells, and Jimmy Johnson. In terms of being able to get inside those guys' heads, no matter how, and they knew how to motivate individual players.
Yeah.
Did they treat all their guys the same way? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
And Parcells, the one time he put a plane ticket on LT's stool and said, "You go down to New Orleans," because apparently he had a problem with a tackle with the Rams. For some reason, LT just got bottled up by this guy named Irv Pankey, and so Parcells put a plane ticket to New Orleans on LT's stool and said, "Go down to New Orleans and get me their 56. We'll dress him for the game, and he'll take care of Pankey."
Whoa.
Well, LT pretty much had to be LT couldn't even be near him for that week, and then he went off on the Saints, just absolutely
Full
tore
Jefferson.
them,
Good.
tore up the Rams. Pardon me.
But
those three coaches more so than anyone else could motivate and get that player that he may be an average player, but he'll play up to a level.
Yeah.
Three great coaches.
But it's
You're
exciting.
right.
It is
It's
exciting.
exciting.
Good
It's
start.
a great time. It's so
We'll-
much fun.
Well, next month when we record again, we'll do
We'll do our midseason
do a-
report card
Yes.
where I'll give
So-
all F's.
My, how things have changed
Jesus
since
crap.
those first 3 games of the season.
we all of us picked that they would go really far in the playoffs at the beginning of the
There was a
season.
lot of NFC championship
Championship,
game
yeah.
predictions.
But-
Well,
The good thing is, think of the 2 times we've had in-season Cowboy
Yes.
episodes. Last year was after the Titans game.
yes.
They were 3-5, season over. Everything completely changed after that. So now, the other time this year, we were 2-0, world beaters, could do no wrong. Now we've sunk to 5-4. So
We're
again,
due
we're
for a
about ready to
turnaround.
reverse it again. Now,
Well, I think it's the only way this team is going to reverse it because a miracle of a highly questionable podcast doing this thing.
Now, is there a Amari Cooper-esque trade in the works that can possibly
No, as a
get
matter
the
of
ship
fact, what I
righted?
expect is this will be a very Jason Kidd-esque 360-degree turnaround.
So we're going to go around the table, but I just lost all faith.
You've come to the dark side, Jesse, because
Yeah.
normally at the beginning of the year, you're very optimistic. You're predicting great things for the team. You have faith in Garrett. You have faith in Jerry. And I think you have finally turned the corner.
Poochie and I were talking before the game Sunday,
Trash.
and I said, yes, trash. And I said, this is a tough 4-game stretch. We can win 3 out of 4. It's fine. So if I was being an optimist, I'd go, okay, we've got ahead and got our loss out of the way. But no, there is no advantage to being an optimist with this team. Everyone but Scott knows the greatness of Ken Schaefer, and Ken Schaefer says it is better to be an optimist because you always think they're going to go bad.
No, pessimist.
Pessimist, yes. If you think always pessimist because if things go bad, you were right, and then if they turn out good, you're pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
With this team from now on, we should be
Doom
pessimists
and gloom
always.
from the very
Doom and
beginning.
gloom.
I take
Yes.
that stance not just with the Cowboys, but all sports. You got to go in thinking the worst and then be pleasantly surprised.
That's
like
why
you said.
Junior's team could be tied at 3 in the NBA Finals. Opening tip, the other team gets a bucket. He turns off the TV and stares.
So
Tightens the noose.
Yes.
Gary-
Walks into the closet.
Stand on a chair.
to just give a little background, Gary he has a Dallas Cowboy tattoo. That is how much he has loved this Cowboy team his whole life. And whenever Junior and Bob knee jerk and do things, Gary is always the guy that puts logic in place, and he'll say, "No, there." But I want to turn the floor just to you, Gary, and I am ready with the dump button. What are you thinking?
You might just have to unplug, actually. Honestly, so I'll say this: it's going to be very similar to what you heard me say after the couple of games at the beginning of the season. I look at this team and I see a lot of talent. I actually like the offensive system. I don't have a problem with it. I think if you take out the first down runs and the dumb run calls at the end of the game, you see what the offense is capable of. And that was against a good Minnesota defense who has probably the best pair of pass rushing defensive ends in the game. And they absolutely shredded them through the air. We know what Dak's capable of. We know what the wide receivers are capable of. I don't know why Witten is still out there as much as he is because Blake Jarwin way outproduces him. I think I read something on Twitter the other day that was like Jason Witten has run 260 pass patterns and has 2 plays of over 20 yards, and Blake Jarwin has run like 60 pass patterns and has 5 plays of over 20 yards. It's obvious which one of those can get the ball and do something with it. But having said all that, this is where the logic says, I believe this team can take the field and beat anybody in the NFL. There's no team in the NFL this year that just looks like that Destiny team, that this is their year. Kind of like the Rams looked like last year, even though they ended up not winning at all.
Mm-hmm.
But there's usually that one team that you believe that about. I don't see that in the league this year. Everybody looks vulnerable somehow, except maybe the Ravens. Like they look really tough.
49ers maybe?
Yeah, they looked real tough the other night, losing to Seattle. Dude, they're not perfect.
Right.
If they were, they wouldn't have gotten beaten that way. So I don't want to hear there is no team that's just like that team of destiny. Even the '85 Bears, when they lost to the Miami Dolphins, it still didn't look like somebody had figured them out.
Right. It was a fluke.
It was just everybody's going to lose one. That was their one.
Right.
And it just so happened it was the Dolphins. But there's no team in the NFL that looks like that. I think this team can take the field and beat any team on any given Sunday. But when that happens, it's the talent getting past the coaching. It's never the coaching helping the talent. This team can also take the field against anyone, New York Jets, and lose any Sunday. And that's why they're going to be an 8-8 team. You go on a 3-game winning streak, you follow it up with a 3-game losing streak. You go 12-4 or 13-3, you follow that up with 4-12.
Yeah.
Jason Garrett is a 500 coach. I like his philosophy, his idea about winning games in the trenches. I think he's right about that. But get your dump button ready. He's a conservative. He's scared on fourth downs. He only goes for it on fourth downs now because for 8 years people said, dude, what are you doing? You've got $50 million in your offensive line and the best running back in the game and threats at wide receiver, and you need 6 inches on the 48-yard line and you're not going and getting it?
I would respect him a lot more. Aikman was on the Musers, and he was talking about that in that final play, the final series where the Cowboys ran 2 runs. And he says, to be fair, if we had done 2 passes and we still come up short, there were fans that would be screaming, "Why aren't you running the
Those
ball?"
fans would be wrong.
I agree, but But I would respect Garrett a lot more if he said, "Look, we have an outstanding line. We have a world-class running back. We thought we could get the 3 yards. We did it. We didn't. Buck stops here."
What he also had was 58 minutes of proof that they couldn't run on that team.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that after the game, what he said was, well, we felt like we have to keep attacking in different ways. Really? Like, in the second quarter, I agree with you. In the third quarter, I agree with you. In the final minute and a half of the game, you do what's effective.
Do what's working.
And what was working on that drive, minus 2 incompletions, was Dak and the wide receivers were shredding that defense. And they got to the most critical part of the drive, and they shit the bed. It's as simple as that. There is no explanation that explains what they did. Because they can't say they were trying to take time off the clock so that they didn't leave too much.
No.
Because they snapped the ball with 20 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah.
If you were going to milk it and run the ball, if you were down 2 and you were just going to kick a field goal, something like that, then you take it down to 1 or 2 seconds, snap it. Maybe you get something, maybe you don't, but you don't care.
Yeah.
They snapped that ball with 20 seconds left. They thought they were going to catch them by surprise and run the football. The first time that they tried it, it was stupid, but I get the thought process.
Yeah.
The second time you did it, it was colossal. It was so stupid that if you go back, and the clips of this are on Twitter, you can find it really easily.
Yeah.
Travis Frederick immediately jumped up and looked over at the sideline and screamed. And the defensive end that made the play told the reporters in Minnesota that he was asking the sideline what the they were doing.
Who do you blame? Do you blame Garrett for that final drive play calling, or do you blame Kellen Moore?
So obviously Kellen is the one calling the plays. I'm not one of those people that thinks that Garrett takes the play calling away from him in certain situations. But
you don't think that Garrett at that point says, keep it on the ground?
I believe that Garrett has given him his philosophical approach. And that is, I want you to do certain things. And it wouldn't surprise me if he said, hey, let's try to run the ball right here a little bit, because they're probably not expecting it, or we're shredding them with the pass or whatever. That wouldn't surprise me. But what I know is the first 3 games of the season, when Zeke was still kind of working his way back into shape, that they murdered everybody by throwing the ball on all downs. And then in this game, while if you go back and look at the stats, it was still heavy run on first down, way over 50%, but it actually was tighter than you might think. But that's because if you go back and look at the last drive, which was like 9 or 10 plays, every one of those pass plays that they got that was a first down, because they had 2 incompletions, was on first down, made another first down, and they throw it again and make another first down.
Right.
They had like 7 first down passes in that final drive.
Yeah.
And that was most of the first down passes for the entire game.
Scott, how about you?
I lay it all at the feet of Garrett. I mean, I really do. I still am going back on the whole thing of we have this amazing offensive line. I'm not convinced anymore. I'm not convinced.
Not from a run blocking perspective.
No,
they're still the most efficient pass blockers.
They're great pass blockers, but they are not knocking guys off the ball and giving Zeke these holes. But then again, I'm also going to lay something on Zeke and saying, what the hell are we paying you for? I mean, how many times have we watched him run into a pile of players?
Do you think he looks slower this year?
I do. He's lost explosion. He's not the same as he was.
Yeah, there's something different,
And do you place some of that blame on him holding out during training camp?
No.
I know
I don't
his
think
time
so.
in Cabo, he was supposed to have been working out, but like you said, he looks
I
slower.
mean,
do you think it's more wear and tear?
Though, it's got to be wear and tear, because even if he hadn't worked out in Cabo, we're in week 10. This is training camp, preseason, all that other stuff that everybody else to go through. He's now been through all of that and more.
Yeah.
And so if he needed to get himself into shape, since the beginning, he's in shape now. And he's not the same guy. Now, the thing that running into the piles and things like that, he didn't used to do that quite as much. But the thing that I've always respected about Zeke, and the thing that I loved about Emmett, was that they didn't take losses. They didn't put their team behind chains. So I don't want to see 1st and 10, they run the ball, there's nothing there, and you dance around, you run backwards, and you lose 4 yards, and now it's 2nd and 14, and the whole offense has to try to figure out how to get those yards back.
Yeah.
Zeke doesn't do that. Emmett didn't do that. And the thing that I always said was the difference for me between Barry and Emmett was that Barry did that. It's also how Barry ripped off 70-yard runs.
Right.
He danced around, made some guys miss because he was amazing.
Right. He's
And
a
then he'd have the
magician.
long run. But he'd also have 4 or 5 runs that same game where he'd lose yards and screw his offense.
Right.
Yeah.
And Emmett never did that. Zeke's that guy. Zeke doesn't do that. If there's only a yard there, he'll get you 2.
Bob?
Well, I mean, yeah, I definitely blame Garrett. But, to Scott's point, the offensive line, at least on the run blocking, has been disappointing. But my biggest disappointment from a performance standpoint is on the defense. And it's not so much the front four. I mean, they've been getting pretty good pressure, especially Quinn.
Good pressure, bad against the run.
Yes, bad against the run. But, man, the linebackers, I don't know what's going on there, man, this year.
It's supposed to be the best linebackers in the freaking league.
It's
And should
baffles
be the best unit on the defense.
Yes.
And there's some speculation that LVE's been playing hurt all year. I don't know what to buy into that. Cheeto's been awful in the secondary. They need to be playing Jordan
I really
Davis.
think Jalen has been worse than LVE on the linebacking core. There's been so many times where running backs have just went right past
right
it.
past
that
these guys.
That Dalvin Cook touchdown close to the end of the game on the left side. Man, there were a couple of the writers on Twitter that posted some video and they were talking about it.
Yeah.
He looked so disinterested on that play. He flowed to that side a little bit. The guard got up on him. He didn't fight the guy off. He let him basically block him and shield him, and then turned and watched Dalvin Cook run past him. Meanwhile, LVE is flowing from the other side, and he caught him right at the goal line. It's the one where it went down at like the half-yard line or 1-inch line. And I remember watching that live, and my first thought was, where the hell was LVE? Why is he so late getting across there? But when I saw the slow-mo replay, and they were talking about that, Jalen really did. He looked disinterested.
So, you are what you are, as Bill said. So, as much as we would love Jason Garrett rip somebody a new one, but he is definitely in the praise in public, criticize in private.
Well,
We assume criticize.
I mean,
Up until this week, we started throwing people under the bus.
blame Tavon Austin for the fair catch.
Blame Blake Quinn.
Yeah.
Which,
blame
that
Kellen.
fair catch, right? There is reports he was told, don't.
No, he flat out said it the next day. Tavon Austin said, I'm just doing what I was told. Yeah.
And he said once he saw it, it made him sick because he felt like, at a minimum, it was a really good return, and he might have housed
I
it.
believe him. I don't think he would have fair caught that just on his own.
And
with
he
the
had
amount of
25,
space.
Yeah, I was going to say minimum 20, 25
You have
yards.
to trust your player and go, okay, this is coming to you. If you don't see anything, fair catch it. I'm counting on you to be able to use your football brain and figure it out.
Norm, of all people, made a really good point about that because, again, they come back to the communication. Well, we only had about 20 or 30 seconds there, so the communication probably wasn't as crisp. Oh, really? So when Minnesota was running on first down, second down, and third down, you didn't think that you might get a punt? Because you were calling timeouts because you wanted them to punt.
Right.
So you'd get the ball back. Maybe for that whole 3 or 4 minutes of actual time, not clock time, that passed by then, you could have been prepping your guys and saying, hey, listen, man, if they're anywhere near you, fair catch it because we don't want to dance around with the ball. But if you've got an alley or a seam and you think you can get 10, 15, 20 yards, you can do that faster on the punt return than we can line up and throw a pass.
Well, and I go back to, and I know this is fiction, but there's that great scene on Remember the Titans where the coach goes, all right, don't worry about that. When we get the ball back, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And, and so you're like, okay, when we get the ball back, here's what we're going to do. And just as you said, it's going to come to you. You're going to have to make a decision, but I know you can do it. And if you see a chance to break it, go for it. And
I don't think Garrett would trust him.
There's not a sense of urgency.
Yeah, so everybody always makes the jokes about Garrett. He's the robot, right?
Yeah.
And teams take on the personality of their coach.
Yes.
What Tavon Austin did there was robotic.
Yeah.
His football brain, he knows he had something there.
Right.
Yeah.
But he did what he was told to do, just like Dak called that running play, 2 running plays at the end of the game. Just like Travis Frederick, listening to him call that running play and looking at a front that he said afterwards, we've never seen that front before and the coaches didn't prep us for it. And there's no way he was making that reach block on the defensive end. Not without Connor Williams holding that the initial block a lot longer than he did. They were way too spread.
Junior?
And that's something I wanted to ask. So, does Dak take any blame for that last
Not
drive?
blame, but this goes to the
I
same
mean, he could have
thing.
audibled.
He
out of
and he
that.
absolutely. I wish he would. I wish he would give 2 fingers
Pull
to
the no
the
daddy no.
sideline and just say, "You're idiots." Romo told me you were an idiot. He changed plays all the time.
Yeah.
And so now, I know I've only been here about 4 years, but just like Romo, I'm going to start changing plays because you guys are dumb. But
Yeah.
he's not. He's a young
Should have
guy.
North Dallas 40.
Even
what he was
even if he didn't audible out of the running play and into a passing play, I would have thought on some of those plays and some of those situations, especially on the 4th down, instead of trying to get that ball into Zeke on that out route, just run it. You need
Right.
3 yards. You have a running lane. Take the 3 yards yourself. Don't trust that Zeke is going to make that catch. That I have some blame on Dak as well.
He's not perfect. He absolutely could have done things
But I
differently.
think that's, once it goes again, the personality. And I joke about it, but Garrett seems like a really nice guy. You know, and you're right.
Jesse, you're a nice guy, and I don't
Yeah.
know that I want you coaching the Cowboys.
I would rather have Jesse coaching.
Oh, I
Cowboys
would
than
rather
Garrett.
have Jesse because at least then I might get a spot on the roster.
Everyone will get T-shirts.
Exactly. But it is, you know, it is, some things lacking.
I'll
And
say
after
this,
10 years,
You guys probably know this because you've seen me post it on Twitter most
Yeah.
likely because I did it about 30 times since last Sunday. All of the players have changed. All of the coaches have changed. The coordinators have changed several times.
Right.
There's 2 constants: mediocre results and Jason Garrett.
And Jerry.
and Jared.
Jerry's owned the team when they won Super Bowls too. He's a constant through a lot of
And
stuff.
I think Jerry has gotten a pretty strong support system now
Will McClay and all
with
those
drafting
guys,
and
Stephen
everything.
will run this team.
Yeah, and it's so.
Well, and
Yeah.
the thing with Garrett, if you go back, and this goes back almost this whole tenure with the team, but after every loss, he always says the same thing. You know, we've got to learn. We're going to learn from this, do better, work. But you eventually you've got to have results. You can't just say,
Show me the learn from
yeah. There's
Yeah.
never
this.
any.
He said you were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody ever holds him accountable for just
Right.
regurgitating
Well,
that same
and I'll say
line.
this: we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Jerry announced last year, right after the season, we'll have Garrett's extension done within the week. Steven came out the next day and said there will absolutely not be an extension.
He
Right.
threw Jerry up against
He's
the wall.
going to cut-
He did with the Dion and the Johnny
Yeah.
football.
Yes, and so that's what I'm
He had
saying.
the
Is
pitchfork against his
Yeah.
the people that think that Jerry's still running this team
Yeah.
are wrong. Will McClay runs the personnel on this team. Steven runs the day-to-day operations, and Steven is going to make sure that if Jason doesn't get it done this year, which he's not, then I think at the end of this thing they're just going to say, listen, I mean, maybe you should go check and see if some other teams might.
Well, apparently the Giants are.
Well, some writer for the Giants suggested that,
So,
and God bless them, they can have it.
So let's do midseason predictions. Where do you think they're going to be? We'll start with you, Scott.
Maybe one game better than 500.
So you're thinking 9-7.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one game.
Gary?
I'm actually looking at the schedule right now. 5, maybe 6 wins through the end of the season.
You think 10
and
and
that's
6?
and that's if they're doing really well. 10-6 is possible. 9-7 is probably more probable. But if one of those 9 is that last game in Philly, they probably win the division and they probably go to the playoffs. And if they get the right matchup in the first round, they might even win that. But in the second round, if they made it that far, they'll face somebody like they did the Rams last year, and they'll get slapped around for 3.5 quarters. They'll make some torrid comeback, and the number at the end of the game will look decent, but we'll all feel like shit because we got pounded for 3.5
We've seen this
quarters.
movie before.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't see this beating any good
Yeah.
team.
Well, that's just
in
it,
the
though.
NFL.
In the NFCs, there are no good
Yeah.
teams.
No, I know.
We played Philly and pounded
But you meant in the
their ass.
playoffs.
And,
Like,
in
yeah.
the playoffs, I don't see them beating
Yeah,
anybody. I mean,
I'm-
I watched
Junior,
the
what do you
teams,
think?
and there's not a way that they could do it.
I'm
So-
looking at the schedule now, and there's really only maybe 3 games that I would say are pretty strong losses. The Patriots game, obviously, They could win that game, and
They
theoretically,
could win any day.
They could win any of
But
them.
they could also
Lose
every
any.
game.
The thing is, and I heard this morning, was the Patriots are skewing that combined record of the remaining teams.
Yeah.
Because the Rams are having a down year.
Yeah.
You know, the Bills.
But
are-
I still wouldn't like their chances against the Rams.
No.
I mean, that offense is good enough to exploit.
Goff's
Yeah.
having
How-
a really bad year.
I mean,
Goff's
the
been
Cowboy
terrible.
defense is having a really bad
Yeah,
year.
that's
Right.
true. That's
So,
true.
and they run the ball. And what do we not do?
Yeah.
Stop the run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would have my concerns against them. And even though the Bears' offense is terrible, I don't know that I would like the Cowboys' chances against them.
Okay.
Because that Bears defense is great.
Okay.
That Bears defense has a great pass rusher.
Okay.
I think they have a solid
They're
And the
not as good
number
as
is?
Minnesota.
I agree with that.
Junior,
Okay, we
and
should
the
have put
number is?
31 on them.
I'm going to say that they are going to finish 9-7, kind of like Scott. I think they will win the division. I think we will beat the Redskins, and I think we will beat the Eagles to win this division out. But I don't like our chances in the first round against anybody, and I think we've already played a lot of the teams that will make the playoffs and have already shown that we're not a good matchup against them.
Yeah.
If we've already lost to the
Hard to beat
Saints,
somebody twice.
we've already lost to the Packers.
Yeah.
That Packers game wasn't even really close.
Well,
And garbage
they-
time it
yeah,
got close.
Yeah.
And we've just lost to the Vikings. Those are all teams that we could very easily see going into the playoffs, and I don't like my chances against any of them.
Bob?
I was thinking 9-7, but I think they've got enough.
You know that's just 4 and 3, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be 10-6, and they could beat the Patriots. I'm not saying that they're gonna lose.
No,
that game
no.
for sure. But
I agree with Gary's statement. And not just on any given Sunday. This team, lightning in a bottle, I believe they can shock the shit out of us. And you go, holy crap. And as Chris says, and get ready to the beep, and then everyone will be sucking their and all excited. And then they're going to break your heart the next week.
I mean, if Stafford plays this week, we could lose to the Lions. I
Yeah.
could see that.
I don't
They're
think
not a bad
Stafford's
team.
gonna play though.
True. Both of those things are true.
Yeah.
I don't
So,
think he's going to play,
10-6?
but we have
Yeah, I'm gonna say 10-6. Now, speaking of Chris, what's his scouting report on Cheeto this year?
I don't know
Cowboy
if
chicken?
he's
I was-
very
I was gonna say, isn't it just a one word? Trash.
He's the new Scandrick.
You
Yeah.
say
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing about Cheeto is the fact that he can't find the ball, and I don't know that that's something that he can fix.
Yeah.
But he's a good corner. He's always
He's in
there.
position. He just
Yeah.
won't
He
turn
just
around.
Yeah.
It's not even a matter of turn around because sometimes he turns around, he can't find the ball.
So it's more
And
Byron
he's got
Jones.
bad
is-
eyes.
So,
Byron Jones is trash.
I'm
He will
gonna
be overpaid trash.
I'm gonna control C
Here.
Gary's discussion and then control V because I agree everything he said. I think 9-7, maybe 10-6. I've seen that movie so many times and I could see it doing again. We get excited. We're in the playoffs. Somehow or another, we end up getting the luck of the draw. We get a team that we can beat here at home because we won the division. Like, yay! And then the floor falls out from under us and we're just destroyed.
Do you think, now going into the season, we all thought, okay, they're going to have to do better in the playoffs for
Yeah.
Garrett to keep his job. But do you think the fact that they're 5-4 now, if somehow they end up going on a good enough run that they do finish like either 10-6 or 11-5, and maybe even somehow win that first playoff game, Jerry will somehow rationalize like
No.
they
I
made a
think
run?
I think Garrett has a job till he doesn't want it. And
Oh,
I,
you really
I'm,
think so?
I'm depressed about it, but I think
Well,
so.
why would they have
How do
not
you
signed an
explain the
extension?
Steelers
Yeah.
then?
The contract is what makes me think that's not
Mhm.
true. I think if they had extended him,
Mhm.
then you're right. He would have a job here for as long as.
Yeah, the fact that they went into the
Yeah.
season without
Okay.
an
the fact
extension.
that he is going to be a free.
Well, I hope you guys are right.
Steven said it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he didn't put a number on the wins or anything like that, but he said there is no contract this offseason.
And he-
Yeah.
That says volumes. And I've seen a lot of writers speculate that it's NFC title game or nothing. I don't know if that's true. They may look and see, what that last game in the playoffs, whatever level it might be. What did that game look like? Did you play a really good game and lose by a couple
Like
of
the
points
Des Carter
to a
game.
team that wins the Super Bowl?
Yeah, then
then
you go-
maybe they can make this rationale
Okay,
to say,
okay.
well, it was in the first round, but.
Yeah.
But and I would disagree with that, but I could see
Yeah.
them making that rationale.
And if they don't win the division, I think it's automatic.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
absolutely
you know, you're probably right.
And you know what's the most disturbing thing about Garrett? It's not necessarily the play calling, but in a lot of these games, a lot of these, high publicized games, they get off to the worst starts.
Yes.
It's
They are
preparation.
not ready to play.
Right.
Yeah.
And that absolutely has to fall on the head coach.
That can every now and then. That's going to happen in just about
Yeah.
every team.
But
In the
you
game.
should be.
It's
But it happens over and over and
You
over
should,
again.
you're just showing your will. So, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. We will be back at the end of the season to see how we're doing. For now,
Those of us that are still alive.
yes, Gary, if someone wants to reach you on Twitter,
At Travel Cowboy.
Scott,
Scott_Matula.
Bob,
Lukewarm tall boy.
What an interesting
yes.
story that
Yes.
must be.
Junior.
Mexican_Junior. You can email us, howmanypodcasts@gmail.com. You can send us a comment on YouTube, on our illustrious YouTube channel that's always getting shut down for copyright infringement.
When you're not getting cease and
Cease and
desist from
desist
your
from my
internet
ISP.
provider.
I'm getting it from YouTube. But lots of ways to reach us. And Jesse?
You can reach me at Jesse Jackson DFW. We would love to hear from you. But for now, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Dallas Cowboys. We are the